Part C. In this part of the test, you'll hear 2 different extracts. In each extract, you'll hear health professionals talking about aspects of their work. For questions 31 to 42, choose the answer A, B, or C, which fits best according to what you hear. Complete your answers as you listen. Now look at Extract 1. Extract 1, questions 31 to 36. You now have 90 seconds to read questions 31 to 36.
So by definition, nutrition is the science of nourishment. So that breaks down to be the chemistry of the foods that we eat, and then also the biochemistry of what happens when we take those nutrients in and our body begins to digest, metabolize, and absorb those nutrients. Also, though, I think nutrition reaches farther than that into, nutrition is really about the choices that we make throughout a day. We have, I think the statistic is 200 choices a day that we make on food. So nutrition ultimately is a way for us to be in control a little bit of our health by the choices that we make and our happiness as well. So whether it be that we're making a choice based on preventing or treating a disease that we have, based on the food that we're eating and what we're choosing there, or if we're choosing a food because it's tasty or because it's nostalgic or because it reminds us of something great. I think that's when it plays into the happiness and who are we sharing our food with, when are we eating the food, can that food make us faster or stronger if we're an athlete. It plays into different things for different people, and I think also once we are able to strip the connection between food and emotion, that's when we're most happiest with what we're choosing for the foods that we eat. And so I think that nutrition can be defined that way as well. Okay, so I happen to be both a certified nutritionist and a dietitian, so I can give you the difference. I started out, knowing that I wanted to do a little bit more with food in terms of, using nutrition to help people as a career. The difference, though, is, when I first started out, I thought I just want to, kind of hone my expertise on nutrition so that I can be able to tell people, this is a healthier option than this, or, this food has these properties that will help you with this or benefit your health this way, that sort of thing. Once I had kind of delved into the nutrition certification, I realized I was much more interested in the biochemical aspect of nutrition and really treating and preventing disease. And so for that reason, I looked into becoming a dietitian, because I know that dietitians, you have to be a dietitian in order to work in a hospital. So the difference between a nutritionist and a dietitian is the course in which they become credentialed. So for a nutritionist, depending on the state, in California, you actually don't even need a certification. So really, anybody could become a nutritionist by just deeming themselves so. I want to be clear to say that the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, which is kind of our board, they're switching the acronym. So instead of just being RD for registered dietitian, it's now going to be RDN for a registered dietitian nutritionist. And it's important to look for the RD still in that acronym to delineate the dietitian from a nutritionist. So a dietitian is someone who's still an expert in nutrition but can be hired in a hospital because the clinical background is there. So a dietitian is required to have a degree in nutrition, be it a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, which I think is going to increase to having to be a master's at minimum. Those classes that are required within that degree are very scientifically based. So it's a lot of biochemistry that's nutrition related and things of that sort. And then a dietitian is required to do an internship, a clinical internship, which is similar to a residency that a doctor would go through. It's just shortened to anywhere between 6 months to a year, depending on how long it takes to get those hours in. And then also it's obviously focused to nutrition. So a dietitian is able to give tube feedings, recommendations, based on preventing and treating disease.
Now look at Extract 2. Extract 2, questions 37 to 42. You now have 90 seconds to read questions 37 to 42.
Now, heart disease is such an important issue. It is actually the biggest killer in Australia, and I think many people would be surprised to know that it actually claims 3 times as many lives as breast cancer. Often it's thought about as very much a male disease, and nothing could be further from the truth. So what do you think is the key to raising awareness around heart health for women?
Look, I think it is dispelling the myth that heart disease is a man's disease. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in Australian women. We really have a job on our hands to encourage women to be as vigilant about their own heart health as they are about their male partners, brothers, sons, and family members.
And what do you think are some of the particular issues around heart disease for younger women?
Look, I think that there is an assumption that heart disease only affects older people, but in fact, heart disease does not discriminate. It can occur at any time in a person's life. And particularly for younger women, our risk factors start laying down in our 20s. So those nights that we're out binge drinking, eating fast food, living on adrenaline, they do start to have an effect and really do influence our longer term health. So there's some of the issues. Certainly there are issues for young women who may smoke and also take contraception. That increases the risk of heart and blood problems. And we know that for a small percentage of pregnant women, heart disease complications can occur. It's only in a small part of the population, but it's certainly something to be mindful of.
Yes, it's such an important thing that I think many women aren't aware of.
No, that's right. And we've got to really spread this message as much as we can. In our surveys, we know that only 3 to 4 out of 10 women think of heart disease as personally relevant. Far too many focus on other issues, and we need to be more holistic in the way in which we approach heart health.
And what about family history? Is that a factor?
Yes, it is actually. We really need to know what our family history is, what our mother, father, grandparents were affected by, because if they've died of heart disease or had heart disease complications, then it does increase the risk or likelihood that you too may be at risk.
And the symptoms of a heart attack, they can be quite different to what you see in the movies, and also they can be quite different for women than they are for men. So could you talk a little bit about those differences and the signs that women should look out for?
Sure. Heart attacks are not always what you think. We know that in 40% of cases, women will not experience that clutching chest pain. They are more likely to experience non-chest pain symptoms like jaw pain, arm pain, or just a general sense of fatigue or nausea. Women really need to be alert to these symptoms because too many of us put it off, attribute it to gardening or to just feeling run down, when in fact it may be a real warning sign that you need to get to hospital, and you need to get to hospital fast.
So if in doubt, get it checked out.
Absolutely.
And what about the lifestyle changes that we can all make, the really simple ones that can make a difference? What would you suggest?
Look, it's the everyday choices that we make in our lives that will make the biggest change. So the decisions that we make to walk or ride to work rather than drive to work, the amount of time that we sit down, whether it's in front of a computer, a TV screen or a movie screen, we really need to look at trying to put more activity into our day. So that's the first thing. We need to think about the food we eat, and you know, it's not always that you have to deny yourself. It's more swap it, don't stop it. So go for a low-fat skim flat white rather than a megachino. You know, choosing fruit occasionally instead of dessert. Those things really do make a difference in our overall health.
And plenty of heart healthy foods like avocado and salmon, I would imagine.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, whole foods, fruits, vegetables, lean meats, these are the things that we should be choosing when we're putting together our dinner menu or our lunchtime lunchbox to take to work. These things matter.
That is the end of Part C. You now have 2 minutes to check your answers. That is the end of the listening test.